Okay, this is today's English, thinking about yesterday and how to trick your husband. We're going to look at the successful features in that piece of writing, in those instructions. For you to be ready for English today, you need these things. You need a piece of paper or your English book, you need a pencil, and you need yesterday's story map. If you don't have yesterday's story map, it's not going to be impossible, but it will be more difficult for you to do today's activities. So you need to go and get those things now. A piece of paper or your English book, a pencil, and yesterday's story map. Pause the video if you need to, and come back as soon as you're ready. Today we're going to be looking at the successful features. So together we will read the writing, and then you will write down the bits that you think are successful. That might be a noun phrase, that might be a question mark, that might be a contraction. It could be a word with a possessive apostrophe. Let's start with the introduction. That's box 1. Box 1. We start with this. How to trick your husband. Try to read along with me. Do you have a revolting husband? Would you like to play a nasty trick on him? This is the world's greatest trick. Read these instructions to find out how to trick your husband. On your piece of paper now, I want you to write down the things you think make this good writing. So pause the video and do that. When you unpause, I'm going to use my highlighter to see if we thought of the same things. You could, for example, write down the noun phrase, revolting husband. That could be one thing that you write down while you've paused the video. Pause the video now, write down all of the successful things. Okay, you might have written down that there is a title. That's really important for instructions. You might have written down revolting husband as a noun phrase. Did you notice the question mark? Let's look at the next sentence. Would you like to play a nasty trick on him? We've got another noun phrase here. Did you write down nasty trick? And we've got another question mark here. Did you write that down too? Okay, let's have a look at the next sentence. This is the world's greatest trick. There are a couple of successful things here. We've got the possessive apostrophe. In worlds, it belongs to the world. And then the noun phrase, greatest trick. Well done if you spotted both of those. Last sentence, read these instructions to find out how to trick your husband. You might have said there's a capital letter, you might have said there's a full stop, but actually that last sentence could be a bit better. Read these instructions to find out how to trick your... We could have something in this gap here. How to trick your horrible husband, perhaps. To use another noun phrase to make it more interesting. Okay, let's read through it one more time together then. How to trick your husband. Do you have a revolting husband? Would you like to play a nasty trick on him? This is the world's greatest trick. Read these instructions to find out how to trick your husband. A very good introduction with 2 question marks. We're going to move on to box 2. I'll give you some time to read box 2 to yourself. Okay, now we'll read it together and then I'll give you time to pause the video. What you need. You need a shovel, a bucket, a bowl, and some tomato sauce. What is successful? Pause the video and write your list now. I'm going to get my highlighter ready. Hopefully you've unpaused the video and you're thinking about what was successful. We've got a subheading. What do you need? Subheadings really help us when we're reading instructions to break it down into more manageable sections. You need a shovel, comma, a bucket, comma, a bowl, and some tomato sauce. Ooh, tomato sauce. What's that an example of? I wonder how many people spotted this noun phrase. Now, box 2 is very short and very simple, but we definitely want to use these commas in a list. They're super important. So make sure when you're writing your own instructions later this week, you remember these commas and the final and. Okay, we're ready for box 3. You're going to read it to yourself first. Here comes box 3. If you need more time, pause the video. Now we'll read it together. If you haven't finished reading it yourself, pause the video and carry on. Okay, box 3, steps. This is where our instructions really begin, with the steps. We know what we need, now we move on to what we have to do. First, dig up some juicy worms in the garden when your husband isn't looking. Next, carry the slimy worms into the kitchen in a bucket so they can't be spotted. Quite a lot of writing here. Pause the video and write down on your piece of paper or in your English book the things that make it successful. First, dig up some juicy worms in the garden when your husband isn't looking. Full stop. Next, carry the slimy worms into the kitchen in a bucket so they can't be spotted. Full stop. What's successful? Write those things down now. Okay, you should have written a list on this page of things that you think are successful. You might have written, there's a subheading, steps. That's really important in instruction writing. So is the next thing, the use of the word first. It's an adverb to sequence. It tells us when to do something. First, dig up some juicy worms in the garden when your husband isn't looking. What else did you spot in that first sentence? First, dig up some juicy worms in the garden when your husband isn't looking. Anything else you want me to highlight? We've got the contraction, isn't. Instead of is not, I used isn't with that apostrophe, because we've squashed that word and we've taken away the O. If you've written everything down so far, well done. I wonder what you wrote down for the next part. Let's have a look. Next, carry the slimy worms, oh yeah, nice noun phrase, into the kitchen in a bucket so they can't be spotted. I can see another thing here. Can you spot something else? Next, carry the slimy worms into the kitchen in a bucket so they can't be spotted. I'm going to highlight can't because it's a contraction. And that's everything. Or is it? Can you spot something else? If you can, write it down now. Because I've just seen this word. So, that joining word to make the sentence longer. Next, carry the slimy worms into the kitchen in a bucket so they can't be spotted. Well done if you spotted that conjunction. Okay, we're going on to box 4, which is the second part of the steps, the what to do. So there won't be a subheading this time. Here's box 4. I'll give you time to read it, and if you need to pause the video, you can. There's lots of writing here, so try to read it all for yourself before I help you out. Pause the video if you need to. I'm going to start reading. If you haven't finished, pause the video now, come back when you have. After that, tip the wriggly worms into a bowl and mix them with some tomato sauce. Then give your husband the revolting meal that will look just like normal spaghetti. Finally, sit back and watch as he gobbles his disgusting dinner. I'll read it one more time. As I read it, why don't you write down the things that you can hear or spot that you think are very successful. After that, tip the wriggly worms into a bowl and mix them with some tomato sauce. Full stop. Then give your husband the revolting meal that will look just like normal spaghetti. Full stop. Finally, sit back and watch as he gobbles his disgusting dinner. Have you spotted any successful things? Pause the video, see if you can find some more. Hopefully you've paused the video by now and you've written down lots of successful things. I'm going to start with after that. So we've already had first, we've already had next. Now I've used after that to help sequence these ideas. Tip the wriggly worms. Wow, wait, have a look at that really tricky spelling of the W-R here, making the R sound. Wriggly worms. That's very tough spelling. Into a bowl and mix them with some tomato sauce. We know already tomato sauce is a noun phrase. Okay, after that, tip the wriggly worms into a bowl and mix them with some tomato sauce. Did you write down all of those things? Let's look at the next line. Then give your husband the revolting meal that will look just like normal spaghetti. What did you write down? Did you write down then as a sequencing word? Did you write down 2 noun phrases? If you didn't, can you spot them now? Then give your husband the revolting meal that will look just like normal spaghetti. Revolting meal is one of them. Normal spaghetti is the other one. If you wrote down normal spaghetti, give yourself a 1, 2, 3. Well done, me. Fantastic job. Again, we could use another noun phrase in this section. Then give your horrible husband the revolting meal that will look just like normal spaghetti. You could make this writing even better. Finally, sit back and watch as he gobbles his disgusting dinner. Finally, sit back and watch as he gobbles his disgusting dinner. I love this sentence. What did you write down? Did you write down finally? Did you spot the conjunction and? Did you spot the noun phrase, I love this, disgusting dinner? That noun phrase there is probably my favourite noun phrase in all of the writing. The other thing we have in this is this word here, as. It works as a conjunction in the same family as because, if, and when. We haven't learnt about as yet. That's a year 3 word. So if you can use that in your writing, whoo-hoo, yeah, that is fantastic. We can add another word in that we looked at the other day. In here, in this space, here, we could use the word greedily to tell the reader how he's gobbling it. Finally, sit back and watch as he greedily gobbles his disgusting dinner. That brings the writing to life even more. So when you're retelling these instructions, you could use the word greedily. Okay, we're moving on to our conclusion. Our final box, box 5, the conclusion. Ready to write down what you think is successful, but let's read it first. I'll give you time. Pause the video if you need to. Top tip. Don't mix up the bowls because you don't want to eat worms by mistake. I'll read it one more time, then you write down what you think is successful. Top tip. Don't mix up the bowls because you don't want to eat worms by mistake. Write down what you think is successful now. Pause the video to make sure you include everything you can spot. Hopefully by now, everybody's realised that these subheadings are very important. And this one has an exclamation mark. And this one is also a noun phrase. Top tip. That's 3 things about 2 words. Amazing. Okay, I'm going to move on. Hopefully you've written everything down by now. If you haven't, pause the video because I'm about to do more highlighting. Do not squash together. Contraction. Don't mix up the bowls because you don't, there it is again, want to eat worms by mistake. Can you see anything else? Did you spot because? That conjunction, linking those 2 ideas together. Don't mix up the bowls. You don't want to eat worms by mistake. Don't mix up the bowls because you don't want to eat worms by mistake. Anything else? One more thing. It's the very last thing. It's this exclamation mark. It's an important instruction and it's a little bit disgusting. You don't want to eat worms by mistake. Definitely not. Exclamation mark. Could you make it better? Could you add something in here? What word could you use to create a noun phrase? Don't mix up the bowls because you don't want to eat something worms by mistake. That's how you could make this sentence even better. Okay. Now that we've looked at this piece of writing, you're going to need your story map from yesterday. Your job is to use your story map to practice saying these instructions. If you've practiced it and you're feeling confident, send me a video of you saying the instructions out loud. That's your job on Class Dojo, a video of you saying the instructions. Add some actions if you want. They might help it stick in your brain, and they will definitely make me smile if I see you adding actions in your video today. So your job is to use your story map to say the instructions and send me a video of that. I look forward to seeing all of them. Have a great time doing it. It is lots and lots of fun. Bye for now.